I guess. Yeah, kind of done with some art projects, and so I thought I'd jump back on the bandwagon about antinatalism and pain and ethics, comparative values, comparative ethics, these types of things. And just kind of talk, I guess, a little bit about what my thoughts are on that, because I was thinking about Gary. I was thinking about Conference Report, Trick, jaysoundar, Barklord's latest video, Pink somebody, and I was thinking about the kind of the idea that values seem as if they are kind of being forced to be seen in a certain manner, and the idea that pain is bad, or in Conference Report's attempt at making a tautology of saying bad is pain, which I think is way off. Benatar requires those as basic premises, and then to speak about value being ascribed to non-existent entities, pain and pleasure, or good and bad, being ascribed to non-existent entities. That's a requirement of, I think, Benatar's third premise, right? And so I did want to find out the distinction, the difference between Gary's argument and Benatar's argument, between Metamorph's argument and Gary's argument, between jaysoundar, Metamorph, amongst that group, what are their differences, right? To say their arguments are different. Well, Gary kind of boiled it down of why would you bring a need machine into the world, and I thought, a need machine, that by itself is almost tautological. Like by need, does he mean fuel? Like, what machine doesn't need something? Like a car needs gasoline to run, a solar-powered car needs the sun to run, a wind turbine, its point is to generate electricity. It needs wind to run. Like being a machine is like a non-sentient animation. And I'm like, wow, once again we have this notion that creating what might be referred to, I think wrongly, as a machine that we're going to say is a human, instead of saying, no, this is a human, not a machine, right? We make that metaphor. We might describe computer analogies, the computational power of the brain and non-such, where without the landscape or the background of computers, that metaphor wouldn't make any sense to talk about hardware and software and the hard drive and the soft drive or whatnot. I think it's really absurd. Now, so I was just, I just keep thinking how much, like the idea of applying pain is bad, right? Pain is bad. Trick went back and forth. Trick and I went back and forth in jaysoundar's video and then one of Barklord's video. I'll probably link them if you guys want to read the comments. And it kind of boiled down to the idea of, I said, comparative ethics, the deconstruction of ethics, the need to import and have an ethics. And I mean, I originally made my antinatalism's attempt to get logic, to end logic in the universe, right? And then Gary follows up, well, the equation is true even if we're not around. Well, and then he doesn't see that part of mathematics is a practice, right? And that the equation isn't just floating out there, just like the word bad isn't floating out there pointing to pain happening anywhere. And so it's that absurdity, right? But so Gary narrows everything down to a need machine, and then I'm thinking, well, how's that not tautological? Because all machines, they need something to run, and so it's kind of like, why make machines? Why make anything? And it is this compounding gravity to the notion of waking up and thinking, oh shit, I woke up. Like, how ugly is this universe, right? Now, when I crashed my body, and I remember feeling like I was going to die, I was losing blood, I was losing consciousness, and it just felt like I was falling back into this hole, going out, and I was kind of struggling to be alive. And I remember feeling like I am so happy to be alive. And this was in the midst of just the most agonizing pain I had ever had. I thought, this is beautiful. I would most prefer to be alive even amongst this pain than to not be around, right? And this is just anti-intuitive apparently to a lot of people, and I don't get why. I mean, I don't know why. That's how I embrace the world. And so I think the antinatalists, I just think it's a dark whining, right? It's like, life sucks, right? This whole idea of life sucks, and yet they have to be alive to say life sucks. And I almost think that some of the strength, like the vitality that Gary has, always walking, always staying in shape, always making fun of fat people, blah, blah, blah. The vitality he has, the very strength, allows him to look upon things and belittle them, right? And it's almost like he must have mixed it up in the civilized social world and like, city world sucks, my childhood sucks, city world sucks, I'm going to move out into nowhere and live off the land the best I can. And then he wakes up and sees the landscape and the nature and goes, it sucks. Always in this horror, always in this fear. And I think antinatalists are I just think they live in fear. Like, the whole thing is really fear, because they don't want to go through pain. And they even keep making these arguments like, if you could trade away or buy your way out of future pain or trade it for future joys, right? Like, there's some sort of bargaining going on here that could be done, that they would do it. And I think it's retarded, right? And I don't get it. And so I think that a lot of it just has to do with this whine, like this mope. I mean, I would hate to wake up and feel like, yeah, man, I'm all alone, the world's against me. But to me, that's a comparative ethic. It's where I stand relative to my environment. I agree with Barkler, like, overpopulation is getting out of hand, it's increasing, resources are declining, therefore there's going to be more suffering in the world. Problem. But apparently the ancients thought the same thing. They thought it 20 years ago, they'll think it again, and eventually it will even out to zero growth. There's going to be a maximum capacity, and at that point there's probably going to be a lot of war, a lot of problems, especially without more energy, more needless machines that need things, right? Anyway, so I was just thinking, as I was going over my sketchbook here, I was like, I guess I could wax on things. Kind of like conference report and we went back and forth just a little bit on he did bad is pain. He was trying to make the pain is bad tautological, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, well, we put pain in, or bad in, the realm of pain. So if it's bad, it's necessarily painful. And I scratched that out. I put a big diagonal line through because I said, no. Pain is argued as bad, right? I think both of these are bullshit. Even the historic etymological roots of pain have to do more, because he's Conference report is very centrific. It appears on felt sense. Like a lot of his reiterations have to do with feeling, and he calls it the haptic, where we bond with our sensual universe. The fact that we are sentient itself seems to be his main point. But I thought, I drew this thinking, well, if these were fingers, or the black spots were where badness intersects sensation or the haptic response, and to say, oh, that's where pain is, I could say, oh well, let's point to pain there and say that bad is intersected it. But then I'm also like, well, bad performance, bad meaning something's weak, like a bad nut on a machine or something like that, and then bad, oh god, what did I put? Performance. Oh yeah, something that like a bad runner is someone that's just running slower. I had a bad run today. Doesn't mean I'm in pain. And like if a nut breaks on a machine, you might say it's a bad nut. There's no pain involved there. So there is this ideality of and use of the word bad that does not allow it to necessarily be fit into the pain content there. And so I'm trying to unravel that tautology and think that that's obvious, and yet I think even the placement of pain with bad by itself is really screwball. So anyway, I was trying to redraw some Venn diagrams just to get down more of the Benatarian stuff, right? And so we start off with putting pain in the realm of bad, right? Well, because before I was putting pain inside I was putting pain in bad inside of the realm of goodness and overlaying that. And then I sat there, and so I drew this one right here, thinking, okay, we got a realm of badness, and then we remove pain. This is the absence of pain, not pain, and then goodness. So, goodness, right, is what I show is shining through. Now, it doesn't have to be that way, but it's more like, okay, so in the realm of badness, if we remove pain, and I moved it up here, right, if we remove bad or pain and moved it somewhere out of here, right, that somehow this goodness, I've made good black over here, would be shining through in this tautology, or in this Venn diagram, right? And I'm over here like, okay, we got bad, we got pain, and we got not good in the realm of bad. And then I was thinking about that, the argument about lesser pain, kind of like if at one point in a consequential ethic, because that's where Trick and I got down to that notion of consequential ethic, almost like to me it's about nouns and verbs, like the cat ran fast, right? As opposed to fast goes the cat ran fast, depending on your language and how you conjugate. I was just thinking about, like, the cat, you always have to have a noun, a statement, a nounus in order to make the verb operation, right? Pain is bad. The use of that bad, pain, they're both nouns. The cat is an animal. Okay, you can say that, that's fine. But know that you're using it as a noun, right? You're speaking about a condition. His health is bad. His health is poor. You're applying value statements, right? And we got into arguments about layering and such and so forth. But anyway, so I guess what I'm saying is I realize this whole idea, like, okay, if you have pain that's this big, right, on a realm of goodness, and then you make it smaller, then that smallness right there, that not pain becomes a good, or I could say not pain becomes a not bad, right? Benatar is really interesting there. Once again, if we could figure out the differences of how the antinatalists think, then they wouldn't be able to form this weird bullshit unification, which Mark Lord was describing as cultish. But anyway, so I drew it out all like this, and maybe that's where I'll start the next video. But yeah, basically it's if it's white, it's good. There's the G. If it's bad, it's black. And then you remove a spot on each, like the infinity sign. You got bad showing through here, good showing through here, and then you got this existent oval that I put behind it all. And the asymmetry is really in that spot and in this spot. And it's right there. If it exists, then lack of pleasure is bad. Lack of pain is still good. If it doesn't exist, pain is still good, or lack of pain is still good.
lack of pleasure doesn't matter. That's the Benatarian